Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Slayer Bunny. My fiancé is 27, mom 43, decided she hated me the day I, 24, gave birth to our daughter, 4 months. My fiancé and I got engaged and gave ourselves a year to plan the wedding. His mom and I used to sit around and chat sometimes when he was working or volunteering as a firefighter. I really thought she and I developed a friendship. He used to say how amazing it was that she liked me because she had always despised every girl he ever dated. I'm a total people pleaser and have some extreme anxiety issues. I have never been anything but kind and welcoming to her, even though she raised the love of my life on abuse and neglect. The stories of his childhood make me sick to my stomach, and she would sit there and tell them to me as though they were funny. She is a bottle of whiskey a day kind of alcoholic and a gambling addict who uses men who want her to keep her head above water financially. She's been married many times. Now, because my fiancé seems to forgive her and is always doing things to take care of her, such as buying her a vehicle and then buying it from her because she wants something else, I figured the best thing I could do was forgive her and let her prove who she is now instead of who she was when he was a child. 6 months into planning our wedding, we found out, thankfully, that we did not have fertility issues and that I was pregnant. We were over the moon and his mother just looked at us disgusted and said, "Oh." Mind you, my fiancé is her only child and he and I are both educated and work in the medical field. We bought a house during my pregnancy. During my pregnancy, which was very troubled, her mother, fiancé's grandma, died of liver failure last year. I took her to doctor's appointments and to the emergency room a handful of times, and I made myself available for both mom and grandma to lean on emotionally. I picked up prescriptions and advocated for her at the hospital and at doctor's appointments when she was far gone mentally. When she finally did die, I offered to make a scrapbook for my fiancé and his mother full of grandma's pictures and artwork she did after she got sick. Less than a month after, I had our baby. His mother was very rude and walked into the room uninvited during my labor. Argued about washing her hands before holding my daughter even though she had literally just come back from smoking one of her many daily cigarettes. And called my fiancé to tell him that I'm a bitch right after she left and then hung up on her son who was a brand new dad. I was so welcoming to her when she met my daughter. I was in pain and had new stitches, and there was a computer issue that meant that I got the epidural but no meds, needle in my spine but no relief, and an unplanned natural birth. Despite this, I made some pictures we're taking of her holding my daughter for the first time and once again offered to make that scrapbook for her. She tried to tell everybody, including my fiancé who knew better, that I went out of my way to make her feel unwanted and unwelcomed. Even if I had, which I didn't. Give me a break, I just gave birth 15 minutes ago. Ever since then, she has been spreading rumors about me throughout the small town we live in and the family, and getting drunk and sending my fiancé horrible messages that make him feel awful about himself. Stuff like, "You didn't care about your grandma and now she's dead," even though he did so much for her and loved her dearly, and slipping in mean comments about me. She never visits our daughter and blames me, saying she can deal with what a bitch I am. Because I know she hates me now, I've worked even harder to be on her good side and make her comfortable. She refuses to accept me and I don't understand what happened. P.S. My fiancé says she's a dumb child who can't take care of herself and that talking to her about her behavior is completely pointless, a lesson he learned a long time ago. When she calls me names, he stands up for me, but otherwise he tries to ignore it. However, he obviously cares about her because he does a ridiculous amount of stuff for her. He recently said that she can eat crap if she's going to ignore our daughter and treat us both like this, but he still does stuff for her and takes abuse from her. Alright, well, OP didn't pose any questions, so I'm guessing the question is, what would we do? Now, in my opinion, this mother-in-law is a full-blown narcissist and an abuser, of course. And what I would do is just go full no contact with this person, nothing, particularly for the baby. I mean, yeah, it sucks that she treats you bad and she calls you all those names and spreads rumors about you, but the thing is, you gotta protect your kid. This is not a good grandmother, don't ever let her near your child again. Now, OP, you say that you're a full-blown people pleaser, and the fact that you know she hates you and you're trying to do more to accommodate her kind of makes that point. So I think, OP, for your sake and the sake of those around you, particularly your family, I think you should try to work through that. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, however, I still think you need to do it. And your husband, he should also try to go to therapy. I mean, he was raised under all of this abuse, and he's still under his mom's thumb. Maybe he does stand up to her for a few things, but he's still at her beck and call, and that's no way to live. In summary, OP, your mother-in-law absolutely sucks, and you guys need to go no contact, and of course keep your baby away from her, and also try to get some help to work on your own issues. And what do you guys think about this situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Bugs Doing Things says, nope, stop that right now. You cannot nice her into being a good person. She is an adult making a choice about how to behave. Being nice when she treats you like dog crap only rewards her for treating you like dog crap. She used abusive tactics to keep your fiancé dancing on a string, and now she's got you on the string too. She will only change if she chooses to change. You can't make that happen. You can only keep yourself and your child out of the blast radius as much as possible. I strongly encourage you to visit Just No Mill for some advice on protecting your new family and setting boundaries. Grandma suddenly turning into a witch on wheels when the grandchild arrives is sadly a very common phenomenon. Whether it's because they sense a whole new avenue for control and manipulation, or because they realize their son has now fully moved on to another woman. And OP responds, the reason I was responding this way is because she's totally nice to my face. It's all behind my back. I didn't want to give her any real reason or something to misunderstand. It seems so weird to me that she'd care if he's moved on, because she abandoned him for men when he was little at the drop of a hat. She never treated him like he was a priority at all. Doughchild says, yeah, it sounds like your fiancé knows her tactics, but that you're from a healthy home and didn't get the lessons. Talking is indeed pointless. Stop trying to get in her good graces. You did the worst thing you could do to her. You gave your fiancé a new focus. When he was single, she could be babied. Now, you gave her competition by giving him an actual baby. That tie to you is now forever. Before, you were just the girlfriend or bedmate he could get rid of. You should have a conversation with him about boundaries and how much you both should try for this family relationship. Perhaps he needs to help her less and do more for you and his daughter. She doesn't appreciate the attention she's getting now, and if you both make agreements and stick to it, you can protect your little family from her moods. The Just No Mill subreddit has some horrifying stories about women like your mother-in-law and how to deal with it. At the moment, she thinks you're a weak person and a pushover. You need to change that perception. Vegan Nazi says, quote, he recently said that she can eat crap if she's going to ignore our daughter, end quote. As someone who had a grandma like that, what the F is wrong with both of you? Why is it even an option for this person to have access to the baby? How the hell is this up to her? She's a toxic, abusive alcoholic. Your one effing job is to protect your child. She's only a few months old and you're already failing her. Get therapy before your child needs it herself because of your crappy decisions. Additional information from OP's comments. My mother was such a narcissist that she almost let me die as a child and psychologically abused me as a teenager. She passed, but left a sibling of mine operating in the same way, and the thought of that sibling even holding my baby makes me nervous. I'm glad I made this post. I had not considered that my fiancé's mom could be the same kind of threat as my mom was. I established boundaries with her regarding my baby because of drinking and smoking and not trusting her childcare skills based on history. Still, I don't want my fiancé to feel like he has to choose, but she is really trying to force it. However, I would definitely not leave them alone together, baby and mother-in-law, but I guess that does make sense. I was trying to respect my fiancé's family, but I'll talk to him about this. On the bright side, he recently said that having our baby around has changed his willingness to put up with her crap, so I hope that means he understands the threat. I mean, he ignores her meanness until she calls me a name, and then he gets in her face and tells her she's not allowed to do that. Now, my mother-in-law talks about my baby like she's the most precious thing in the world, posts on Facebook and all sorts of stuff about her, and then uses me as an excuse not to see her. Before I made this post, I thought she was the classic bad mother, good grandma, bad mother-in-law. I know about the rumors she spreads because other family members have warned and informed me. I hadn't considered narcissistic issues at all. I will not allow her to hurt my child. Finally, many of you suggested I try to get my fiancé to therapy, and believe me, I would kill to get him in therapy. He hates the idea of therapy and bristles when I mention it for him, and he feels like he has to protect his mom. His typical response when I suggest this is, "No, she's just dumb and doesn't know what she's doing. Somebody has to help her." So, no matter how I go about it, he refuses to even consider therapy. Alright, well, I think the community was on point with all the advice they gave OP, particularly that about protecting her daughter. That's OP's main job now. And OP also gave us a little bit of context regarding the relationship her fiancé and his mother have and how he doesn't want to go to therapy. So now let's move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends. But of course, before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with the update. So, I wanted to update you kind people who gave me advice. I took a lot of the advice I was given and created tighter boundaries for her relating to my daughter, and I choose to avoid seeing her, mother-in-law, as much as I could. She continued to spread rumors and drunkenly call my fiancé to tell him what a horrible bitch I was, but she had very little available ammo to twist up because she hadn't seen me since I made the original post. Then the universe smiled upon me and she moved to a different state. She drove off yesterday to live where gambling is illegal and to live in an alcohol-free house. Hopes are high that she will either change or just not be around much. I get the impression she is narcissistic. My fiancé is her only child and she raised him to take care of her instead of to be cared for by her. But maybe sobriety will open her eyes to what she is. I truly hope for the best for her, but after everything she did to him and now to me, I simply wish the best for her for my partner's sake. I lost my mother a couple of years ago and she was very abusive. It still devastated me. I don't want that for him. When we went to say goodbye, she pretended I wasn't even there, and it was clear that she filled my uncle-in-law and cousins-in-law heads with lies about me because they were much less friendly than they used to be. I think in time this will get better. The family members who have spent any time with me know I'm too nice for my own good. And I guess she did this with his paternal grandmother who acted as a real mother. Also, I know my partner should do something about this, and in his defense, he has been brainwashed into believing she can't make it on her own and that she is a child in a woman's body. He has learned that without him, her life is in danger and that she will not even hear him if he tries to address her bad behavior. Before me, his girlfriends were all just like her. I'm a lot like his paternal grandma. It's a learning process, and I think that's part of why we found each other. He defends me when she calls me names, but all the underhanded crap to him isn't worth acknowledging. He has made it very clear that she can eat a penis in his words and that our baby and I are what is important to him. He draws the line at her calling me names. I have suggested therapy or other professional help for him to deal with this whole mess, but he always shuts that down. I wish he was open about it, but he isn't. He likes to do things on his own. Very anti-therapy and anti-programs. As much as I wish he wasn't, it's pretty hard set on him. Overall, this was probably the best case scenario for an outcome. My baby and my partner are what matter most. Thank you all for your advice and perspective. We will see how things go from here, but it was nice to learn that even his mother couldn't turn my partner against me. He is happy she moved. He hopes for the best for her and loves her, but does not hurt over her living 1,000 miles away. Thank you all again. You people are what made me realize it wasn't my fault. As long as my partner and baby are safe and know who I am, I think I'll be okay. Smiley face. Well, OP, even though it would have been a lot better if your husband or your fiance would go to therapy or be open to it and you could have addressed this with your mother-in-law, the fact that she moved away is still a positive update for you guys. Hopefully, she stays away. So maybe it's a good time to lose her number. And on that note, OP, here's wishing you, your fiance, and your baby the best in the future. Thank you so much for sharing and take care. Now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user NerdyKate100. My useless coworker said it was his last day. It was. I work at a nursing home as a QMAP, Qualified Medication Assistant Personnel. We're super short-staffed. For my first 2 weeks of employment, I had to work 7 days a week because there was no other night shift QMAP. Finally, they hired a new person, who we'll call Devin. Devin was useless. I mean, genuinely, truly, wholly useless. The only duty he did was administer medications. We only have to pass one med on the night shift. The rest of the night, he'd either sit on his phone or sleep. He never cleaned, did the paperwork, checked on residents, did follow-ups on PRN medications, charted anything, and he even argued with caregivers about who would wipe the ass of bed-bound residents. To make it worse, he took most of my shifts. He worked 5 nights a week as a QMAP, while I worked the other 2 nights, plus 3 as a caregiver. On the 2 nights when I was QMAP, I had to desperately catch up on everything he let pile up through the week. What normally took maybe 3 hours of work per night suddenly took almost my entire shift. I tried to talk to him multiple times about his lack of work, but it was like talking to a wall. I'd spend 15 minutes begging him to, at the very least, clean the effing kitchen so we didn't get ants or mice, and he'd just nod and say, "Yeah, I get it," in the most monotone voice. Admittedly, I wound up blowing up at him twice. But I feel like it was deserved because he wasn't caring for the residents and he was dead-ass lying to my face about his work. Everyone, including my boss, knew he was completely useless, but we didn't have enough staff members to fire him. One Saturday, when it was only me as caregiver and Devin as QMAP, I'd been called in earlier to work a double shift because we were short-staffed. 30 minutes before shift change, I got a call from my boss saying that Devin quit on the spot. To my understanding, the interaction went as follows. Devin says, "I'm changing my schedule to only working 3 days." And the boss says, "You can't just change your schedule without talking to us." And Devin then says, "Then this was my last shift. I quit." So all of a sudden, I was left as the only staff member on shift. I had to do the equivalent of 3 people's jobs. Normally, there are 2 caregivers, but like I said, we were short-staffed. Not to mention, I'd already worked 8 hours on the evening shift. It was a long, exhausting night, and I'm pretty sure I only got everything done thanks to a multi-hour-long adrenaline rush and spite. And I didn't get a break after that because I was once again faced with the fact that I was the only night QMAP. So I'd have to work every night until we found someone else. However, after a few nights of consistent work, I remembered how effing easy work is when you don't have a mountain of crap to get done. Cut to 5 days ago and I'm having a medical emergency. Without going into too much detail, I have a PEC tube and it has been persistently infected and it's gotten worse. I wound up in the hospital and my boss had to cover me that night. I came back in the night after, despite feeling like a complete ass. Once I got on shift, my boss called me with some news. Devin texted her asking for his job back. It turns out he quit without backup income and was facing the consequences of his own actions. My boss asked me if I wanted to let him come back since I was sick and still the only night QMAP. I weighed my choices and came to the conclusion that despite feeling like crap and being forced to work every night, it was still less exhausting and strenuous than picking up after Devon. It was a final, beautiful, petty moment of revenge for the hours of stress and strain he put me through. I got to put the nail in his coffin. The idiot clearly didn't want to work, and in no uncertain terms, he had told our boss that Saturday had been his last day. Who was I to say otherwise? OP's edit. I've got some people asking if he knows it was me. Yes, I texted him separately to inform him. It was professional but very passive-aggressive. Devon, I made the decision with our boss not to hire you back. You told me several times that you did not want to work here, and your work ethic reflected this. On top of that, you quit. That's a pretty definitive final statement. Happy travels! Well, OP, you were just looking out for Devon's interests. That was it. You were just being a good friend. Good for you, OP, and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.